From Dubai to Lagos, Nigeria, and across the globe, Souq News TV is your #1 station focusing on business, economy, and development. With global digital reach, we connect Africa's pulse to the world stage. Welcome to Souq News Television, and here we go beyond the headlines. From breaking news, in-depth conversational programs, to market analysis and indices. From policies affecting growth to unique documentaries, from live event coverage to bespoke productions, we deliver content that connects you to the world. At Souq News Television, we provide news surrounding business, economy, and development, infomercials and jingles that stand out, short and long-form documentaries crafted to international standards, independent production spaces with full technical support, special coverage for individual and corporate events, a special form of documentaries through our prestige package, Immortals, where we tell your story the way you'd love it, and business support services tailored for small enterprises. Souq News TV, powered by FEMWASH Limited, also home to the Isle 95.9 FM Lagos and Kasua 99.7 FM Kano, and Emirate News Television Abuja, together forming Africa's trusted media powerhouse. Storytelling, coverage, and connection that matters. Souq News TV, your home for business, economy, and development.
Welcome to the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC. ADSC is an organization focused on training and research to advance sustainable development and growth in Africa. We exist to facilitate customized training, research, and study exchanges worldwide on leadership, management, and critical development issues. The center offers a platform for the exchange of ideas and best practices. Our comprehensive services encompass research, consultancy, capacity building, training, and education programs, as well as publishing and disseminating development-related knowledge. Our faculty consists of experts and researchers with extensive experience in policy formulation, implementation techniques, and monitoring and evaluation. Our methodology involves talks, individual and group exercises, games, video screenings, and discussion seminar sessions in a cozy atmosphere, making learning enjoyable for our participants. For more information, email us at info@adstudiescenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit our website at www.adstudiescenter.com to learn more about our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
To start with, let me give some introduction to myself. As you said, I was a former Commissioner of Finance. I was a Commissioner of Finance during the Ganduja's administration from June 2015 to October 2018. I was there for 28 months, okay, as a Commissioner of Finance. And I had been with Bayero University, Kano, before I was appointed Commissioner of Finance. Still, I'm a Professor of Accounting in the university, but I double as a Commissioner of Taxation because at the Prince Abubakar Audu University, Ayumba, Kogi State, there was a chair that had been vested there by the Federal Revenue Service in 20 2011. And they invited applicant for that year, and I was the successful person, successful applicant. So I still occupy that chair, even though the chair is not functioning. But I got the privilege of serving as the elected or selected professor of taxation in that university. So I am in the area of taxation. I've done a lot of researches in that. And then I serve as the Federal Commissioner of the Tax Appeal Tribunal. So it was on 15th November that our tenure came to an end, from 2018 to 2024 November. So you can see that I have been involved at various levels on the issue of fiscal policy, tax revenue generation, tax revenue utilization. So this the reform that we are talking about was brought about by the president with a view to maybe perfecting the tax system in the country. So he formed a committee to advise him as to how to go about coming up with very good national fiscal policy, not just tax policy, and then how to reform the taxes in the country to make them better so that Nigeria can compete with other economies that are advanced in the area of utilization of taxation as a means of growing up the economy and achieving sustainable development. So this I know, the process and all that have gone into this project of reform. So bills were developed out of the report of that committee appointed by the president under the chairmanship of Mr. Tayo Oyedele. And for the first time in the history of forming a committee in Nigeria, we had a committee that the president has given the power of implementation. So it's not just about recommending something to him. It is about coming up with a report which will be convincing to him, and if he's convinced, he will ask then to be involved in the implementation of the recommendation of the report. So I think that is why the committee just presented the proposed bill to him without taking this bill to the public domain. Because of the trust that he has on the committee, he just sent the bill to the National Assembly for consideration, for passage into law. And in the bill, they even gave deadline as to when the bill to be passed into law. They expected that the National Assembly would deliberate on this committee, on this bill, to the extent that the bill will be passed into law before 1st January 2025, so that by 1st January 2025, the content or the provision in these bills will begin to be implemented by the government. 4 bills were developed and proposed. And then unlike the expectation, the comment you made that people are more concerned about the administrative, tax administrative bill. What the bill that is generating the highest controversy is the Nigerian tax bill. That is the bill that has made provision for repealing about 11 taxes that are currently existing, including the VAT itself, including petroleum profit tax, including personal income tax, including companies income tax, and other taxes like capital gain tax, casino tax, etc., etc. And then about 14 laws that are related to taxation, including laws that are designed to exercise control over consumption, over production. They made substantial amendment on them, and then take the amended aspect, amended part of those laws into the Nigerian tax bill, which means that the laws have suffered from, or they have enjoyed consequential amendment. So this bill, which is expected to become an act by 1st January, is now becoming an amalgamation of most of the taxes that Nigeria is using now. Most of the taxes, those that have been repealed, part of them, part of the provision in them have been injected into the Nigerian tax bill. Those that have been considered for consequential amendment, they are also captured in the Nigerian tax bill. And then they made a lot of paragraphing, creating part, creating section, etc., etc., to the extent that the content of that bill is about 220 pages. So you have to develop the stamina. You have to be used to reading before you read everything from the beginning to the end. And if you don't do that, you may miss a lot of things. And you may be talking ignorantly about the content of the bill. And unfortunately, that is what is happening in the public domain. You hear people talking ignorantly about the content of the bill. They just listen to news, radio, television. When they hear the comment of somebody, then they will amplify that comment ignorantly without reading the bill and understanding the content of the bill. So that is the one that is enjoying the greatest controversy. Of course, others too are enjoying some controversy. The Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, because it is in that bill that the new sharing formula for VAT was stated. VAT have been extensively explained or described in the Nigerian tax bill. But how to share the proceeds of VAT have not been captured there. That provision could only be seen when you go to Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, which is the bill that has been designed to show how the tax authorities in the country at the federal level, state level, and local government should be relating with one another so as to avoid conflict, so as to avoid a situation whereby all of them may go to a taxpayer with different dimension of claim. The bill was designed to achieve this main objective, to resolve the conflict that has been happening between tax authorities or even revenue generating agencies. Because when you talk about the revenue, we shouldn't be talking just about the tax revenue. You have revenue that custom is collecting. That bill, second bill, is saying that customs should no longer be involved in collecting revenue. It is the Nigerian Revenue Service that should be collecting. Customs, let them take care of their responsibility of checking item coming in, item going out, which is another area of clash. These custom people, they are used to collecting money. Okay, and they are used to, many of them, a lot of allegations are there as to how they are collecting this money, how they are not remitting the correct amount. So now, collection of custom duty will no longer be the responsibility of custom official, custom service. It's the Nigerian Revenue Service that should be collecting. The same thing with all other agencies of government that are considered as revenue centers. So that bill has made adequate provision to show that they know the moment this bill is passed into law, they don't have any power to collect revenue. It's the Nigerian Revenue Service that should collect. Let them deal with their own responsibilities of stabilizing the economy, ensuring control over consumption, over production, over whatever. But then collection of revenue is not their own. And then between the said Internal Revenue Service and the Nigerian Revenue Service, there should be harmony. If there are revenues sources that are difficult for the said revenue service to utilize in generating revenue, they can bring in, they can collaborate, or they can reach agreement with the Nigerian Revenue Service to do the collection and then share the amount collected as per the agreement, or take cost of collection as per the agreement and then give the state internal revenue service or even local government revenue committee what they deserve. So the expectation of the Nigerian Revenue Nigerian Tax Administration Bill is to bring about harmony and understanding. So how that could be brought about is a question to be answered. Because of the nature of Nigerian, the nature of official, and the way the people put their eyes on money. They want to be the one collecting money or keeping money or doing something with money. And now you are saying that all those that are used to that, they have to they will be suspended from doing that, or they will be banned from doing that. It is only that agency, the Nigerian Revenue Service, that will be doing it. So there are some issues there that are calling for a question, okay, understanding among the agencies involved or the tier of government involved, and then of course patriotism to ensure that whatever we do as revenue collectors, as treasury managers, as revenue utilizers for the execution of various projects, we demonstrate ethics, we demonstrate honesty and integrity. The revenue agency itself, before now, the revenue agency is behaving as if it is for the federal government. And this bill that has been sent to the National Assembly is encouraging the Nigerian Revenue Service, which will now replace the Federal Revenue Service and the law that established it. It's encouraging it to consider itself as a federation agency, not federal government agency. It is to be serving the interests of the federation. And so the concern of the state should be addressed by that agency. The concern of local government should also be addressed. It should be an agency that should be mentoring local government revenue agencies or tax authorities and state government revenue authorities or tax authority, so that they carry themselves together as a team, then ensuring that we have very good tax system in the country, that we have adequate revenue generation on taxation, which should be put to use for executing various projects that will bring about sustainable development in the country. So when you look at all the provision made in the Nigeria Revenue Service Bill, they are talking about the need for harmonious working relationship. They're talking about the federal Nigeria Revenue Service to serve as the model to state revenue service and local government revenue committee, so that they have very good understanding in implementing the provision in the Nigerian tax bill and the Nigerian tax administration bill. So all the provisions are like that. And then provision have been made adequately as to the position of the executive chairman of the State Internal Revenue Service, the need for governing board, which will have that chairman as the chairman, the need to have the technical committee at the state level, and who are to be members of that committee, the whole and representation to be drawn from various MDAs and other agencies of government and federal government into the committee, and many other issues. And even at the local government level, there is a need for revenue, local government revenue committee, which should be chaired by the councillor in charge of revenue or finance at the local government level, and who the members are and their function. So when you look at all the provision there shouldn't be any controversy. Even if there will be controversy, it should be less, and it should be something that could be resolved. For example, personally, I will not support a situation whereby the chairman of the State Internal Revenue Service should also be the chairman of the board. This is against corporate governance system. And then the same person will be the chairman of the technical committee. The same person will be the chairman of the revenue joint committee, where all the representatives for local government will be members and other agencies. So it will be as if the chairman of the Internal Revenue Service at the state level will become the alpha and omega on all revenue issues in the state. And that person may even be seen himself to be more powerful than Commissioner of Finance. When I was Commissioner of Finance, I was serving as the supervisory person on all the activity in the Internal Revenue Service. The chairman of Internal Revenue Service should be reporting to me, should be taking orders to me. He shouldn't be going directly to the governor. But the provision is showing that the chairman of Internal Revenue Service is equal to the commissioner. And in fact, they were even saying that governor is just to nominate him and has to go to the House of Assembly for clearance. Just as commissioner will go to House of Assembly for clearance. And there is no provision to show that this person should be answerable to the Commissioner of Finance. So something like this, I think many people may not see it, but with my own experience as a Commissioner of Finance, who have been intimately related to the Minister of Finance that time, I know the problem many states were facing as they empower the chairman of the Internal Revenue Service, they empower too much the Accountant General against the Commissioner of Finance, who should be the supervisor to all these agencies of government. So issues like these are there, and appropriate action need to be taken by the National Assembly in correcting the lapses in the bill. Then the last one, which is about institutionalizing revenue board. Okay, a revenue board. Before we have joint revenue board. Before we have joint tax board. So now that joint tax board is an appendix of the personal income tax. It's just under personal income tax. So now the drafters of the bill, they will want joint revenue board to be on its own. Have a law supporting it, so that at the federal level, where we have the chairman of the Federal Revenue Service, he will now serve as the chairman of the Joint Revenue Board. Then all the chairmen of the Internal Revenue Service at the state level will be members. Ministry of Finance will have a representative. Ministry of Budget and Planning will have a representative. And you have some other agencies of federal government that may send representative into that board. So that board will be taking decision on monthly basis on where improvement should be made, how to solve problem between one tier of government and another, and many other things, which will be very, very beneficial to the president or the Federal Executive Council, and then beneficial to governors and the various state executive council on fiscal policy and on utilization of taxation to generate revenue and on utilization of the revenue being generated by these agencies. Because many people are having the feeling that the agency, they collect this money and they spend the money. But in real sense, they only collect. But they remit to the government, into the treasury of government. So while they collect, they have the responsibility of collection. They don't have the power to spend a kobo from the amount generated. It is the government that takes care of that. So the Joint Revenue Board has been given a lot of responsibilities in that bill. So when it becomes act, become a law of itself, so the Joint Revenue Board will now be more powerful than what we know before as Joint Tax Board. So this is just the summary of the bill that have been sent to the National Assembly for passage into law. Yeah, my turn is that we need reform in our tax system. As a student of taxation, I have the belief that no economy can make any progress if it doesn't have a good tax system. Most of the economies of the world, or I can say all of them, all the developed economies of the world, they are tax-based economies. And most of the natural resource-based economies, they are among the backward economies in the world. Look at it. All the members of OPEC, none of them is part of the G20. They have the revenue, they have the oil, they are producing it in great quantity, but they are still being considered as developing economies. Well, when you look at UK, Germany, France, US, other countries like that, they don't claim to be having enough revenue, enough oil to refine for their use and then to export the excess for sale. They don't claim for that, and that's why they don't belong to the OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. They base their economy on taxation, but then they have very good tax system, which is just attracting minimal complaint. And the moment they hear some complaint from either the taxpayers or the tax administrators, they take appropriate action immediately, so that at the end, nobody will complain. And because of the reliance on taxation, the citizen of their countries, both natural and artificial person, companies and individual, the citizen of the country, as they pay tax, they have the right to demand accountability. They have the right to demand prudence. They have the right to demand transparency. And for that, those impositions of austerity, they are always in fear that whatever, if they steal a kobo, people will shout, this is our money. We contributed this money for execution of progress that will amount to a project that will amount to sustainable development, not for the money to be stolen. So this person that is stealing money, appropriate legal action should be taken against him. Sometimes you hear some leaders being hung. Sometimes you hear some leaders being shot, the firing squad, because of the misuse of public money. So members of the public that are contributing this money in the form of taxation, they complain. And then they insist on appropriate action to be taken. So before you come out and claim that you want people to vote for you to go to the parliament, or to be the governor or the president or whatever, you will have it in your mind that when you go there, you touch public money, that may be the end of your life. Because that the contributors of that money will be, their eyes and attention will be on the money. And the moment you misuse it, they will take appropriate action against you. Your image will be tarnished. You may even lose your life. So those economies that are considered as developed, they rely substantially or totally on taxation for their development. And then those economies that are relying on natural resources, oil, cocoa, solid mineral, whatever, as they use the money from this to execute project, the members of the citizens of that country, both natural and artificial, they don't care if they see them stealing the money and abusing the money, because it's not their money. It's not their own contribution to the economy. Number one, the prohibition on VAT, which you said earlier has attracted a lot of attention from leaders in the northern part of the country. VAT could be addressed in two ways. Okay, the first way affects everybody, and then the second way is what the leaders in the north are complaining about. The first way is on the increase in the VAT rate. Increase in the VAT rate. We have never had a situation whereby progressive increase will be brought to VAT rate in any country in the world. From my reading, I have never experienced it. But this is being brought about in Nigeria through these laws. They said VAT rate now, which is 7.5%, as per the Content of Finance Act 2020, will be increased to 10% from January 2025. Just about a month away. If the bill are passed into law, VAT will be increased to 10% of all VATable goods and services. And then just 1 year after, 2026, it will be increased to 12.5%. Then you have a small raise for 3 years. By 2030, the rate will be increased to 15%. So you can see the progression in the increase of VAT. And the moment you increase VAT rate, inflation will come up very powerfully, especially as you are increasing from 20 to 2025, 2026, you are increasing 2.5%. So the goods and services throughout the country, you see their prices going up. And there is no separate market for battable goods and services and non-battable goods and services. No separate market. Don't just feel that when you increase VAT rate, the increase in price will be on battable goods only. All other goods and services, their prices will go up. And how do you survive that? Nigerians now are complaining about fuel subsidy removal, electricity subsidy removal, and many people have become unemployed. Many people have become disabled. Nobody, any earner of salary can claim to be saving anything for investment. People are borrowing money to top up to the income that they have for survival. And those that have no work, they are complaining. We just finished induction for ICANN. About 3 inductees met me that if I have any chance for them to get employment, you are qualified as a chartered accountant and you're looking for jobs. So what about the secondary school leavers, diploma holders, and other people that have not even attended school? So unemployment is on the high side. And increase in inflation is a killer to businesses, because when you don't have people buying, you have to stop production. You have to stop providing services. And when you stop production, you sack your employees. And then you have more people go into the employment market and labor market. So increase in the VAT rate is a very big killer to an economy. And this is a problem that affects all the state in Nigeria. And our president himself in 2020, I could remember, when they are trying to increase VAT rate from 5% to 7.5%, he came up and warned the government that this increase in VAT rate will be harmful to the economy because of the inflation that it will ignite. That was during his, I think, 68 or 69 birthday lecture. When he was to comment, he talked harshly against the increase in VAT rate. And now the same government is accepting the bill to go to the National Assembly for increase in VAT rate on a continuous basis. So I see this as a very big mistake. The timing is very wrong. And then the policy, the idea of progressively increasing VAT rate, especially as Nigerians are complaining about the subsidy, fuel subsidy removal, electricity subsidy removal. So this is one thing that need to be looked into. And as we are interested in generating more revenue through taxes, particularly consumption tax, we have to be very careful about the consequences of the increase. And this is for the whole country. So that is one part. The second part is about the sharing of the amount that will be generated. Yes, right now, when VAT is generated internally, and of course the one for custom, they put it together and share it using vertical formula and horizontal formula. Vertical formula between federal government, state government, and local government. So federal government takes 15%, state government 50%, local government 35%. That's how they share it vertically. And then for local government and state, since they are not at the same level in terms of population, in terms of level of economic development, in terms of weight for industrial development, so they have to use the separate formula. And they agreed that 50% of whatever belongs to state government should be shared equally. 30% should be shared on the basis of population. And then 20% should be shared on the basis of derivation. And that derivation, in the simple language, is about the contribution of every state to the VAT that has been generated. And at the local government level, they are to consider the contribution of each local government to the VAT that has been generated. Okay? So at the state level, when you say contribution of every state on the value that has been generated. Consumption is made much more in some state than in some other state. But then the formula, the derivation, the term derivation, this day, that is being applied now, is giving priority to state where the head offices of companies providing services and goods are located. You do consumption in Adamawa on services, maybe the recharge card and other communication or telecommunication services or bank services or insurance services, whatever. So since you are just dealing with the branches there, the head office of the bank producing these services is in Lagos or in Rivers or wherever. So it will be deemed as if you do the consumption there. And so the credit will go to Lagos or Rivers or Ogun or wherever, where the headquarters of it is located. Not where you do the consumption. So at the end of the day, you see that states like Lagos, its own contribution may be 50% or 60% or more every month. The state like Rivers, its contribution may be about 15% or 20%. Abuja may be about 10% or 50%. And then the heavy consumers, the northern state, like Kano, which is a commercial center, its own contribution may be 1% or 2%, because it doesn't have the head offices of the companies providing these goods and services that are being consumed there. So at the end of the day, you see that 20%, if it is 6 billion, for example, if it is 6 billion, for example, so 60% of that 6 billion will be about 3.6 billion. That will go to Lagos. And then 10% of that 60% may be about 600 million. It may go to this. And then you, the consumers, you may get 1% of that. So you can see that particular 20% is the cross of the matter. That is the basis of the controversy. So now that this bill has been submitted to the National Assembly, then these people saw that this derivation has been increased to 60%. 60% instead of 20%. Down, not previously, right now, 20%.
Not right now, 20%.
And it has been jacked up.
It has been jacked up.
And the depreciation has been jacked up. And then in the law, derivation has not been defined. But then people have to go by what is happening now. As they go against it, since now the derivation is about contribution of state that are producing these goods and services being consumed. So they have the right to just say that, oh, so now instead of 20%, it will now be 60%. And then you hear the government functionaries, including members of the committee, saying that no, that's not what they mean. They mean area of consumption. This 60% derivation is about consumption area, not location of the headquarters of company that produce the good or services. You should have defined that in the law. When you say the issue of derivation has been increased to 60%, but what we mean by derivation is this and that. So that controversy will have been avoided. Or you go under the interpretation section. And so as you are interpreting this, and then you say derivation. By derivation, we mean this, and that. That has not been done in both the Nigerian Tax Act and the Nigerian Tax Administration Act. So you can sympathize with the people complaining. And then if it goes like that, if they don't correct it at the National Assembly before passing into law, the moment it is passed into law, they will go back to this issue. The solution is that they will just go back to pleasing state where the headquarters of the companies are located, because there is no definition that says that it is about consumption. So everything needs to be documented. Yeah, in a society that is well informed, you should always talk on the basis of evidence. And evidence in accounting, we said you prioritize when you are to prioritize between two evidence, verbal and written. Written is more important than verbal evidence. Okay, and that is why in court, even if you say you give verbal evidence, they want to write it down and read it for you. Then you sign or you put your thumbprint that yes, this is your comment. Because written evidence will continue to remain. Verbal evidence could be denied in a later date. So these are two issues, all based on that. And then you can appreciate why people are talking too much on this matter, to the extent that they don't even care to notice other lapses that in the act. But they, as student of taxation, I have to read and try to pinpoint lapses that need to be corrected so that we have a perfect reform on taxation or on revenue generation in our dear country. So you see, I saw provision on development levy. That there will be development levy, and that development levy will be 4% of accessible profit of companies whose turnover is more than 50 million per annum. So their accessible profit, 4% will be charged as development levy from 2025 to 2026. From 2027 to 2029, development levy will be reduced to 3%. From 2030 and up thereafter, development levy will go down to 2%. So that development levy will be the reason for wiping out other development levies that is used by some government agencies that are providing vital services for this country. You have TED Fund, Tertiary Education Trust Fund. Now they are relying on 3% of accessible profit of companies for all the projects that they are executing across the country. TED Fund, as I hope you know it very well. So it's the one that is most of the infrastructure development in federal university, federal polytechnic, federal college education have been executed by TED Fund. They sponsor lecturers of various institutions to go for further study, to attend conferences, and they have what they call National Research Fund. They take care of all the researches that are being conducted by all these tertiary education institutions using that money. So TED Fund will now get some share from this new development levy. And then you have NIDA, Nigerian Information Technology Development Agency, which is given the mandate of making Nigeria to become an ICT economy. And that agency is relying on 1%. The 1% of the profit before tax of GSM companies, banks, insurance companies, etc. These are companies that are pushing for ICT technology development. So the agency is the one to be monitoring the activities, and they want to be funding ICT development in various institutions and taking many other measures which should take Nigeria to ICT economic level. You have NASENI, Nigerian Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure. So that is an agency that has been given the mandate to make Nigeria become science and technology economy, to promote local manufacture of cars, local manufacture of motorcycle, and many other things that we show that we have grown up as an economy that can compete with all these developed economies. So that agency is also relying on a particular share, I cannot remember, from what internal, I think, Federal Revenue Service is collecting. And now the government has introduced NEL Fund. So NEL Fund is collecting 1% of the total taxes, levies, etc. that are passing through the Federal Revenue Service. So these are 4 agencies of government that are reliant on levies, charges, etc. for them to take care of the mandate given to them. So this development levy is designed to ensure that 3 of them are phased out systematically. Only NEL fund, which is for giving loan to students, will survive. By 2030, that 2% that we are talking about, from 4% to 3% to 2%, the whole of that 2% will be for the NEL fund. While all these have been put aside, it's up to the government to decide whether to disband them or to put them into the mainstream budgeting system. So in 2025 to 2026, TED fund will get 50% of that 4%. And NEL fund will get 25%. NIDA will get 20%, NASEMI will get 2%. So by the end of 2026, NASEMI, NIDA will no longer get anything from that development levy. So they will be on their own. It's up to the government to decide whether to cut them out or to continue to fund them through the budgeting system. And then by the end of 2029, TED fund will not be getting anything. But from that 27 to 29, they said TED fund will be getting 66 and 2/3%. And NELDA will get 33 and 1/3%. That is what will happen for 2028 and 2029. By the end of 2029, forget about TED fund. It is only NEL fund that will be getting that 2% development levy that will be charged. So you can see that by 2029, all these 3 agencies that have clear mandate for moving the Nigerian economy forward, they may either be passed out or they may be taken back into the mainstream federal government budget. And agencies that are used to being independent, are going to working on target. How can they survive under the mainstream government budget? So the other implication is that as you have only NEL fund, even before transferring everything to NEL fund is there to give loan to students. All this money that will be coming to you just for giving loan to students. So this shows that a Nigerian student will mainly become debtors. And when they become debtors, will they have the mouth to complain about the government being a debtor nation? Nigeria as a whole becoming a debtor nation. Every day loan is increasing. So students too will now become debtors. Secondly, the federal institution, all these federal universities, they are not charging tuition fee up to now. They only charge registration fee. University of Lagos, University of Nevada, Bayero University, Kano, ABU, all these federal universities, and many of the state universities, they don't charge tuition fee, just to encourage children of the poor to attend university or polytechnic or colleges of education. So as TED fund is put in place, nobody can claim that he or she cannot pay tuition fee. And then no university or polytechnic should be going to government asking for money. In fact, government may even give them target of the amount that they should be remitting to the government. Because you are charging tuition fee, you are charging registration fee. You are having enough money to take care of yourself. And then we want you to remit something to us because we own the Federal University College of Education Polytechnic. So at the end of the day, you see that students will become debtors, students and their parents who insist on making sure that their children attend universities or polytechnic or college of education. And then the universities will no longer be complaining about insufficiency of funds. Because private universities are not complaining of it. They have their founders who are funding them and they are charging fee. Some are even charging 2.something million per semester in Nigeria here. Some are charging 2 million, some are charging 1.5 million per semester, and some per session. And so they have a lot of money to execute various projects, to pay high salary to their staff. And then the private universities, they are complaining that no money. When you go, they say no money. Even for execution of project, you either TELECOM to do it for you, or you go cap in hand as for support from individual and organization to execute project for you. But now that you are allowed to charge fees, and the student, if they don't have money to pay, or their parents don't have money to pay, to go to NELCO to collect loan for the payment of the tuition fee and the registration fee, and even for living costs. And they made it very clear that when you borrow such kind of money, you will start making repayment 2 years after graduation, and even 2 years after graduation until you get a job to do. And then from the job that you are doing, you'll be paying 10% annually up to when you finish paying the loan. How will that be feasible in Nigeria? How will that be feasible? So this provision too is a matter of concern. Yes, for people that will look about what will happen in the future. Look at the implication of the policies contained in that bill. Okay? So I'm of the opinion that to correct these lapses, they should just stop at the first formula. When you collect 4%, you increase the rate to 3%, as again to 4%, as again 3% for TELECOM, in order to accommodate other agencies, and you stop charging the other day. And then, so the first year they said 50% will go to TELECOM, which is like reducing what TELECOM is getting from 3% to 2%. I hope you understand. When I say 50% of 4, that is 2. Before TELECOM is getting 3% of the accessible profit. So we can manage with the decrease from 3% to 2%. And then NELFON, which is the baby of the government, will give you 20%. Okay? Then NISDA, which is having very clear mandate of making the Nigerian economy an ICT economy, 20%. Then NASENI, 5%, saying we don't care much about the technological development that may come to manufacturing cars, motorcycle, etc. We give them 5%, and then allow them to look for means of further funding themselves. So you stop at that, but not to scrap any of these agencies. So that's my own advice. Okay, so that is another important area that need to be addressed in this bill before they are passed into law. In taxation, as I said, we encourage payment of what you can afford. A situation whereby, this is my own personal opinion, yes, and people may feel that I am in support of taxing the poor. No, I'm not talking about the poor. Anybody that doesn't have income, that doesn't have profit, that doesn't have gain, it should not be considered for taxation. But if you are making some gain, you are making some income, no matter how small, and you are paying something, no matter how small, out of what you are gaining, that will make you to have greater moral right to challenge government. But if you are put outside the tax net, you are not contributing anything, you don't have much moral right to come and challenge the government for inefficiency, for poor accountability, for poor transparency. When I was Commissioner of Finance, I had called to be organizing some town hall meetings with small, medium, micro, small, and medium enterprises across the market that we had in Kano. I will invite their leaders and inform and address them. You see, we are introducing presumptive tax. We are doing that with a view to ensuring that you own the government. You own the government. This government belongs to every one of us. But then those that are contributing money into running the affairs of the government, into executing various projects for the state, they have greater stake than those that are not contributing anything. And no matter how small your contribution is, you have the right to claim ownership of government. So many of them were encouraged. So I said, okay, you are in this business, you are at this level. How much can you afford to pay as your presumptive tax? So we say they themselves, yeah, they will accept, yeah. Yeah, so there was a time that we had meeting with some of them. I was saying that you are too small, or maybe every month you should be contributing 100 naira. Some say no, if that group of people can contribute 150, we can contribute 200 naira every month. Through engagement, interaction with the micro, small, and medium enterprise, you can arrive at something that they will be contributing in the form of presumptive tax. And that payment will make them to have the pride of becoming taxpayers. And they will be having their eyes on how government is spending the money. But the situation whereby you come openly and say that you are pushing away about 90% of the people out of the tax net. So you are only relying on 10% of people for the payment of tax. So you are saying that you are now taking the whole of the government to 10% of people, or probably 1% of people. My worry is about that threshold. The fact that you have threshold does not mean that somebody that is not at that threshold, who is making money, cannot contribute with a view to owning the government. I hope you understand. My concern is about ownership. Taxation is a way of owning the government. So if I pay tax, like now I pay tax, I know every month they deduct something out of my salary as a lecturer in the university. I will look at my pay slip and see the contribution that I have made. So if I need tax clearance certificate, I can go there and collect it, whatever reason. But you that are not paying anything, what tax clearance will you ask for? Okay? And then if something bad is happening in government, you see them stealing money, do you have any right to complain? Is it their money? What have you contributed there? So a situation whereby we want people to be economically empowered to own government. And then we are now having a reform that is saying that that is even proud to say that about 90% are made not taxable, even presumptive tax. So in other words, I am of the view that as we claim for transactional tax to be paid by the rich and luxury asset to be taxed as that are at the lower level, they should also be paying some presumptive tax, even if it is 10 naira per month or 20 naira per month, so that those rich people claim that the government belongs to them, this one too will say, yes, the government belongs to us. So provision like this is not there in the act. All they are just claiming is that they have pushed people away from the tax net. And pushing them away from the tax net, just pushing them away from ownership. So you are just surrendering the whole of the government to very few people who will now be teleguiding those in the position of authority. And you will just be asking for help all the time. Where you can also claim ownership with pride, or no matter the amount that you are contributing to government. The other aspect of it is this absence of adequate provision in the Act on property tax. Property tax, yes, property tax. Like I was talking about luxury asset. Those with luxury asset, they need to be taxed on the value of this luxury asset so that we generate more revenue. Those that are doing the transaction of high volume of money, they need to be taxed for this transaction. That's what we call transactional tax. So you can see that as we are talking of relieving the poor or income earners from tax, from this tax rate, we are not talking much about taxing the rich in the bill. It is not clear as to how properties of the rich people in this country who are very small. Someone was even telling me that in Nigeria, where you say 99% of the wealth of the country is in the hand of 1% of the people in the country. That 99% of the people of this country, they own only about 10% of the wealth of the country. What a gap! If this is true, we have not done any study empirically to ascertain this figure. But you can see some sign of it. And you need taxation to bridge the gap. And then as you are arguing for the bridging of the gap, you now have a reform that is throwing away 90% of the people from the tax net, and then the people drafting the bill are even proud to say it. So I have reservation on this. If I found my way, I will agitate for appropriate correction to be done. And that does not mean that I'm agitating for the taxing of the poor. I'm talking about those that can afford. They are not for the personal income tax rate, but then they pay presumptive tax with a view to owning the government, with a view to ensuring that the government is not allocated to only the very few rich. And then these few rich, in the other way around, there are no adequate provision, there are no clear provision to see how their wealth will be taxed. No. If you look at all the statements that I've been making, there's nowhere that I mentioned that the North is having this agitation. I'm just talking to you about areas of concern in the law. Areas of concern. I think I only made reference to the North when it comes to this issue of sharing of VAT, that the governors and traditional rulers in the North, they are forced to raise alarm, and they raise alarm on this matter only. But all the other matters that I mentioned, they have not said anything. Maybe they have not seen them. They don't have this perspective that I have. Okay, so I am a Nigerian first before becoming a Northerner. Okay, so I talk as a Nigerian. My concern is about the Nigerian people, and the Northern people are also part of Nigeria. Yeah, you see their position, or the worry they expressed just about the injustice they suspect from the issue of VAT collection and sharing. And even that provision has been made perfectly, I doubt very much if they will complain. And then secondly, they may be having the suspicion that the drafters of the bill were just reading the mind of the president. A president who was a governor in Lagos State, who developed, people are just having the feeling that he was the one that developed the Lagos agenda, which is about making the Lagos State to have a special status in Nigeria. And special status is just about maybe putting it into a position higher than other governors, but not up to the level of the federal government. And then when you are targeting that special status position, then a lot of things could be designed that will be favoring Lagos. So those that are attaching the bill, one, they are doing that in view of the formula they discovered, which may not be, will not augur well for them on the VAT allocation. And then secondly, they may be having the feeling that this law was just designed to favor Lagos State in the course of its own effort to become a state that has special status. Okay? It says so that will make it to be seen as if it is a country of its own, even though it's not up to the level of country, but it is higher than all other states in the country. Probably this may be the reason why they are agitating. The one that you can see clearly is on this issue of VAT. And then they have other suspicion. So that is another worry that I have. The issue of trust. Trust, what do some experts call trust deficit. Yes, will be promoted greatly by these bills if corrective measures are not taken. All these issues that I mentioned, I did that honestly as a Nigerian. By all standards, I should be accepted as a Nigerian. Even by virtue of my past, people should accept me as a Nigerian. I don't have any reason to be sentimental against any part of this country. I don't have any reason to be favorable to one region against another. I don't have any reason for that, but even by virtue of my birth and my own level of experience, okay? And and of course by my age, somebody that is around 60. So that person should only be thinking about what you meet when you die, when you reach your goal. Okay, so I think to be fair to them, we can say that their worry is mainly about that issue, and then all other issues are sufficient.
At the Africa Development Study Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission, empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change with customized training.
A very good morning to you and welcome to the news update. We are reaching you live from our studios at Souq News TV. I'm Oyin Priya Krumale. Now, the federal government has approved the extension of the Kefi Nasarawa Total Road to Abaji in the Federal Capital Territory, expanding the project's total length to 199 kilometers. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, who disclosed this during an inspection tour in Nasarawa State alongside Governor Abdullahi Saleh, said President Bola Tinubu approved the extension to strengthen interstate connectivity and enhance economic integration across the north-central part of the country. He explained that the project will be executed in phases, with the first 7 kilometers already funded and under procurement, while the remaining 130 kilometers will follow under a revised construction plan designed for durability and a 50-year lifespan. Umahi noted that the project's expansion would ease traffic congestion on the Abuja-Lokoja Highway, reduce travel time, and open new investment opportunities for logistics, mining, and agriculture along the corridor. He warned that underperforming contractors, particularly those handling the Maraba-Kefi dual carriageway, of possible contract termination for delays and substandard work. Governor Sule commended the federal government for its continued support, describing the road as a lifeline for industries and farmers, particularly with the rise of new industrial operations such as the state's lithium processing plant, the largest in the continent of Africa. The federal government has inaugurated the reconstruction of 6.7 kilometers Port Harcourt Road in Aba, Abia State, marking a major milestone in the state's infrastructure renewal and economic revitalization drive. President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Minister of Works, David Umahi, described the project's completion as a miracle achieved through collaboration among the federal government, the state, Abia State government, and Julius Berger Nigerian PLC. He praised Governor Alex Oti for his commitment to rebuilding critical infrastructure and positioning Abia as a model of progress and transparency. Julius Berger's Director of Administration, Dr. Abdulaziz Kaita, described the new road as a lifeline for commerce, linking markets to manufacturers and easing years of traffic, flooding, and transport disruption. The project, built on resilience and comprehensive drainage design, is expected to reduce travel time, boost logistics efficiency, and spur businesses and its growth in the state of Abia State, in the region of Aba. Governor Oti reaffirmed his administration goal of restoring the city's commercial dominance, thanking President Tinubu for supporting projects that align with the renewed hope infrastructure agenda across the country. Now, Dangote Cement has officially launched a new cement plant in Atingwe, about 30 kilometers from Abidjan, Ivory Coast, marking a major expansion of its Pan-African operations. According to a statement released on Sunday, the 100 billion CFA franc, an equal of $162 million project, spans 50 hectares and boasts an annual production capacity of 3 million tons, making it one of the company's largest plants outside Nigeria. The facility makes Ivory Coast the 11th African nation to host a Dangote cement production unit, reinforcing the group's total continental capacity of 55 million tons per year. The company said the plant is expected to generate over 1,000 direct and indirect jobs while supporting local SMEs and infrastructure growth amid rising construction demand. The Antigua plant is not just an industrial unit, it's a symbol of confidence in the future of Ivory Coast, said Serge Bota, Managing Director of Dangote Cement Ivory Coast. And now to education. The Academic Staff Union of Universities has commenced a 2-week warning strike today after its 14-day ultimatum to the federal government expired on Sunday. ASU National President Professor Chris Puwana announced the decision during a press briefing at the University of Abuja, saying the strike would be total and comprehensive due to the government's failure to meet key demands, including the conclusion of 2009 federal government ASU agreement, release of withheld salaries and improved funding for public universities. The federal government's last-minute proposal was reportedly rejected by the union, which described it as inconsistent with previous negotiations. In response, the federal government appealed to ASU to reconsider its action, warning that the no-work, no-pay policy remains in effect. Education Minister Dr. Tunji Alausa said the government had released 50 billion naira for earned academic allowances and earmarked 150 billion naira in 2025 budget for universities' needs. Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Student NAS has urged both parties to resume dialogue to avoid a further disruption of the academic calendar. In a related development, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics granted the government 6 weeks to address its own demands after reporting progress in ongoing negotiations. The European Union has announced a commitment of 11.5 billion euros to fund clean energy, infrastructure and pharmaceutical projects in South Africa, aiming to support the country's economic recovery and renewable energy transition. A major portion of the investment will focus on expanding renewable power, the capacity, upgrading transition grids, and development green hydrogen initiatives. The EU highlighted the Koiga Green Ammonia project as a key component of the plan, intended to boost sustainable energy production and meet rising demand across industries such as agriculture, chemicals, and mining. The investment also includes a funding to strengthen vaccine and pharmaceutical manufacturing for wider African distribution, while European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen had pledged 4.7 billion euros earlier in March. It remains unclear if the new commitment is an addition or part of that amount. South Africa, struggling with sluggish growth and high unemployment rates, continues to court investors amid challenges from a 30% tariff imposed by the United States President Donald Trump and the expiration of a key U.S.-Africa trade deal. Many thanks for watching. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at Souq News TV. I'm Oyinpriye Krumale. Coming up shortly is Souq Business Landscape. Do stay with us.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, and monitoring and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. For more information, email us at info@adstudiescenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit our website www.adstudiescenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Once upon a time, letters took weeks to travel across borders. Today, air transport makes it possible to send parcel from Lagos to London overnight. But behind the speed lies a powerful partnership between the aviation and the postal service. The aviation sector is the engine that drives modern postal logistics. Every day, thousands of letters, parcels, express packages fly on cargo planes and passengers' aircraft belly. But it's not all smooth. Postal systems, especially in developing countries, face big challenges. Poor infrastructure, customs delay, and limited air connectivity. To survive, they had to improvise. Some now partner with private airlines and logistics startups. Others are exploring drone deliveries for rural areas. We have moved past traditional mail to air-driven logistics. Aviation gives us speed, reach, and reliability, but it also demands innovation. And the numbers tell a business story. With the rise of e-commerce, global air cargo demand is soaring. Postal agencies that adapt quickly using aviation for express and last-mile delivery stand to gain billions in revenue. So the next time you send a package across the country, think the route, aircraft schedules, and airport handling that make the delivery possible. Aviation isn't just about passengers anymore. It's the silent backbone of postal logistics growth. In the skies above us, a new kind of airmail is thriving faster, smarter, driven by technology. Aviation is giving postal industry a second wind, turning old challenges into new business opportunities. You're watching Across Border, and I am Alice Patrick. Stay tuned for more insights.
Drop makes a hole in a stone, not by force, but by consistent dripping. Nothing describes this woman more apt than her indomitable and consistent drive for excellence. Born Bilikisu Abiodun Moturayo Omobalanle Adekola on December 24, 1962, into the family of Alhaji Abdulmoshood Adekola, the first grandson of the first Alhaji in the city of Ibadan, and a Cameroonian mother, Mrs. Hannah Aduke Adekola, in the ancient city of Ibadan, Oyo State. While her mother was still pregnant with her, left for England to further his education, And while she was pretty much young, her mother left the country to go join her husband to return while she was 8 years. Meanwhile, she was left to be cared for by her grandmother. She was registered in a private boarding primary school at the age of 4.
My parents had me. My father went off to England to go to school before I was born. He left my mother pregnant with me. My mother had me, and before I was a year old, left to join her husband in England, and I was left with my grandmother. I grew up with my grandmother before my parents came back like 8 years after. Spent my first, from about age 4 or 5, I was sent into a boarding nursery school. I lived in boarding school at a very early age because my parents wanted to protect me from becoming a local Ibadan girl.
And she usually attributes these to her early independence and wisdom. Omo Agbanimi, some of her friends sometimes poke fun at her wisdom, which is way beyond her age.
I was raised by my grandmother, so I'm a bit of an old woman in my brain, in how I think, as my friends say.
Her foray into business started at a very young age at her grandmother's shop where she sells salt. Little did she know that this was going to stand her in good stead in life.
My first exposure to business was my grandmother's little shop where she sold salt. And I used to love to sit behind her little kiosk and help her to sell the salt. But who knew I was being trained for business in my future?
While at secondary school, she participated in the literary debating group, excelling in it, which made her consider a career in law, though that didn't last. Also, it is worthy of note that Ibukun Awoshika could hold her own in athletics, earning her the nickname Rabbit because she could really run.
As an athlete, if you want to run, and I used to be fast, they used to call me the Rabbit.
Unsure of what career path she was going to settle for, she considered becoming many things at one point or the other of her life. After secondary school, she thought of becoming a medical doctor, but she couldn't stand the sight of a cadaver, so she let go of that idea. Later on, architecture was another fancy that caught her attention. Similarly, she also considered becoming a chartered accountant. Finally, only see she could work in a bank.
I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Then I found out that they work with real dead bodies. I changed my mind very quickly. I then thought, you know what? I'd like to be an architect. I was good in sciences and had a problem if parents sentence you to science when you're good at both. So I ended up in Ife to study chemistry. By the end of my first year, I realized how much I hated chemistry. I could pass it, but I didn't love it. So then I thought, you know, I'd make a good lawyer. I debated throughout school. I used to represent my school in school's debate. So everybody knows that I can win an argument. So I gave it everything trying to change to law. I used to go and sit outside the door of the dean of law. And then one day the man said, come, what do you want? I want to change to law. Is that why you've been sitting outside of my office? Yes, sir. Okay, if I only take one person from another department next year, it will be you.
After the completion of her undergraduate degree at the University of Ife, she went for the compulsory one-year National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, in Kano State, where she worked as an audit trainee at Akitola Williams & Co., which later became Deloitte.
For youth service, I did everything to make sure they sent me to an accounting firm. They first sent me to a Muslim school to go and teach. That was easy to solve. I just wore a dress off my shoulder. I went to report. I was immediately rejected. Once they rejected me, I went back to the posting room and waited there for days until they sent me to Akintola Williams & Co.
Although she was later given full employment after her service year, she felt becoming an accountant wasn't a thing.
You would have thought that having done or gone through all that trouble, accounting would be the love of my life. When I got there, within the 1 year of my youth service, I realized how boring accounting is to me. Because they had all the processes processes somebody else had thought about before. All I had to do was open old dusty files from company to company without imagination or initiative. I'm a very restless human being. That was not going to work. So I finished the work. I did well. They offered me permanent employment, but I said, thank you, but no thank you. Why? Because at that moment, I had come to a realization that that was not the vision for my life.
After returning home, she joined Alibert Nigeria Limited, a furniture company, as showroom manager. In a word, only to kill time. She only stayed for 3.5 months. She left to begin a furniture manufacturing company called Quibis Limited in 1989, just months before her 26th birthday. The company later grew into Souq Chair Center Limited, following a venture merger with Souq SA and Guarantee Trust Bank in 2004.
But the first job I could find 1 week after was in a furniture company. So I went there to kill time. My kill time project has resulted in 30 years of investment of my life in building a manufacturing group in furniture. So it was never the plan of my life. So some of you will accidentally find your purpose.
One could only wonder what had led her not only to compete, but to thrive in a male-dominated terrain. With over 30 years in business, Ibukun Awoshika is a woman to reckon with, encouraging more women to participate in the business terrain. Her passion to see the girl child not just to be educated, but much more to learn to own our own value and trade with it when there is need for it. Her lifelong ambition is to see herself die empty.
My biggest ambition in life is to die empty. Totally empty. That no talents, no giftings, no opportunities, nothing that I was born to do, that I have the capacity to do, that I do not do.
Following her remarkable achievements, she's been conferred with different doctorates, including one in business, entrepreneurship and human capacity development from the Lagos State University, Ojo. Similarly, she was given a honorary doctorate of business administration from the Obafemi Awolowo University and another from the Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwoye, Ogun State. Apart from our entrepreneurial prowess, Ibukun Awoshika is an ordained minister of the gospel, a presenter, writer, and a TV host.
The Bible tells us that let every man be what? A liar. And let who alone be true? Let God alone be true.
She hosts a television program called Business His Way. Also, she acted in the 2020 Kunle Afolanyo movie titled Citation, which in addition to the books she had written, including Business His Way, The Girl Entrepreneur, The Girls in the Boardroom, and My Thoughts in Codes. In 2004, she earned a certification in Business Administration and Management from the IESE Business School. She's also the chairperson of the Novel Nigeria Office for Philanthropy and Impact Investment. She has consistently encouraged women to take up more leadership positions without compromising their values and integrity. In 2005, she was appointed the MD CEO of Souq SA of France, GTB PLC, the Chair Center Limited, and some local investors after the ban of the importation of furniture by the federal government of Nigeria in 2004. Furthermore, it is noteworthy to note that she independently established another ultra-modern furniture facility, Furniture Manufacturers Mart in Ikeja, Lagos. In 2008, she was among 5 Nigerian entrepreneurs who appeared in the first African version of the Dragon's Den. Unlike a great deal of others who knew exactly what they wanted to do from the beginning, she admitted to accidentally finding purpose. Ibukun Awoshika is a member of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, a member of the board of Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund, a former chairperson of the Board of Trustees of Women in Management, Business and Public Service, and a member of the IESC's International Advisory Board. Furthermore, she sits on the board of Digital Jura Limited and Cabri Nigeria PLC. Additionally, she's a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative and Aspen Global Leadership Network. History was made on the 7th day of September 2015. Following the resignation of Prince Ajibola Afonja, she became the first female chair of the First Bank of Nigeria in its 126 years of existence. Ibukun Awosika's Octo-Nigerian father, Abdul Moshood Adekola, who was a great influence in her life, passed on the 20th April 2020 after serving the Lord as an usher at the Fountain of Life Church in Lukbeju. He was a Muslim convert. He was converted few days before his 60th birthday. She got married on her 28th birthday to Abiodun Awosika, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Excel Exploration and Production Company Limited, and they are blessed with 3 fine young men, Oludola, Olufishika, and Olamiposi. To celebrate a life of impact at 60, friends and mentees surprised Awoshika by building the Ibukun Awoshika Sports Center at our beloved secondary school, Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, Lagos. This project took about 6 months to complete and had some of our mentees like Tara Durutoye and Didi Okuano, Chichi Nwoko, and Bisola Runsewe. They marshaled it alongside a team of other successful people. She stands like Joshua upon the pinnacle of the Horeb, looking to command an army of a new generation of women entrepreneurs that wouldn't stop at anything to achieving their God-given dreams. For her, she believes that regardless of how illustrious her career is and how successful she could ever get in life, her family and husband remain the most important gift in her life. Ibukun Awoshika.
Muhammad Yunus was born on the 28th of June 1940 in the village of Batwa, Chittagong, a British Indian colony which is currently known as Bangladesh. He attended Lama Bazar Primary and Secondary School in his village and passed the matriculation examination into Chittagong Collegiate School, where he ranked 16th out of 39,000 students. After his graduation in 1961, Yunus joined the Bureau of Economics as a research assistant and was later appointed lecturer of economics at the Chittagong College. During that time, he also set up a profitable packaging factory on the side. In 1965, he received a Fulbright scholarship to study in the United States, where he obtained his PhD in economics from the Vanderbilt University Graduate Program in Economic Development. Between 1969 and 1972, after his keen education excellence of apex heights and proportions in the United States, he returned home and was appointed professor of economics at the University of Chittagong. He was eventually appointed onto the board of directors to the United Nations Foundation, where he served for 33 years. When Bangladesh suffered a famine in 1974, Yunus felt he had to do something for the very poor. In his country, he founded the Grameen Bank. His motivation was to create economic and social development for the very poor, giving long-term loans to those who wanted to start small enterprises to pay back when they can. The aim to help was to get many of them out of poverty. For this, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. Muhammad Yunus is a recipient of numerous international awards for his ideas and endeavors, including the Humanitarian Award in 1993, World Food Prize in 1994, Independence Day Award in 1987, Bangladesh's highest award, the King Hussein Humanitarian Leadership Award in 2000. He was also awarded the Volvo Environment Prize in 2003, Nikkei Asia Prize for Regional Growth in 2004, Franklin D. Roosevelt Freedom Award in 2006, as well as the Souq Peace Prize in the same year. All humans are born entrepreneurs, he would always fondly say. His heart showed through his everyday life.
Wale Soyinka, born Akiwande Oluwole Babatunde Soyinka on July 13, 1934 in Abeokuta, Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, stands as one of Africa's most celebrated literary figures and a global icon of resistance against oppression. His life and works reflect an unwavering commitment to justice, culture, and the transformative power of arts. Soyinka was born into a Yoruba family in colonial Nigeria, an environment that exposed him to both traditional African culture and Western education. His father, Samuel Ayodele Soyinka, was a school headmaster, while his mother, Grace Eniola Soyinka, was a devoted Anglican. This blend of indigenous and colonial influences deeply shaped Soyinka's world. Soyinka attended Government College Ibadan and later proceeded to the University College Ibadan, where he studied English and literature. Soyinka completed his education at the University of Leeds in England, earning a degree in English and later a doctorate degree. In the late 1950s, Soyinka began working as a dramaturgist at the Royal Court Theatre in London. However, his passion for storytelling and cultural preservation drew him back to Nigeria, where he founded two theatre groups known as the 1960 Masque and the Orisun Theatre Company. Soyinka's works, often a fusion of Western dramatic techniques and African themes, address universal issues of justice, freedom, and human dignity. His early play, titled A Dance of the Forest, which was introduced in 1960, written to celebrate Nigeria's independence, critically examined the nation's socio-political trajectory, setting the tone for his career as both artist and activist. Soyinka's activism became more visible during Nigeria's post-independence years. In 1967, during the Nigerian Civil War, he called for a ceasefire between federal forces and Biafran separatists. This led to his arrest by the military government, and he spent 22 months in prison, where he wrote a short drama titled The Man Died, Prison Notes, a harrowing account of his imprisonment and a profound critique of authoritarianism. Soyinka has authored more than 20 works, including plays, novels, poetry, and essays. In 1986, Soyinka became the first African to win the Nobel Prize of Literature, an achievement that brought global recognition to African literature. Soyinka remained an outspoken critic of oppressive regimes, often at great personal risk. His activism extended beyond Nigeria, addressing global issues of injustice and human rights. During periods of military rule in Nigeria, he went into exile, continuing to write and speak against tyranny. Today, Soyinka is celebrated not only as a literary giant, but also as a symbol of resilience and moral courage.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
Idris said he's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigerian content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side
let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape. Good morning and welcome to your regular breakfast show. This is SBL. We are live from Souq News Television. It's always a pleasure being here on a beautiful Monday morning and knowing fully well that you are on that other side and being part of this production. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed your weekend and at least you had a good rest. My name is Souq, John Roger Souq. On SBL today, we'll be looking at Nigeria and loans. Where are we? We don't want to use ears in hearing some of these things, but hey, we need them for development. But hey, accountability is always the watchword. So where are we on loans, debt? Who are we owing? How much are we owing? We'll talk about that on this table that happens to be alive today. We'll also talk about gas, CNG, LPG, LNG, all of them. Is it getting to you? We'll progress this particular discussion sometime tomorrow. But hey, for today on this table, we'll talk about availability and cost. What's happening around that particular sector when it comes to transition to gas. That is the major discussion we will have here today. Trump never ceases to leave the news. China never ceases to leave the news. They are always there at each other's neck. We'll also get to talk about that. Then what's happening with our oil production? It's also for discuss this morning. So don't go anywhere. This is where you are meant to be. So hey, be here. I'm not alone on this table. Your Excellencies, please join me as I welcome on this beautiful Monday, the fair one himself. Oyinpere, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Souq. Good morning, Olumide. Great to be here. It's a brand new week.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. The knight himself is here. Olumide, good morning.
Morning, Souq. Morning, Oyinpere. Happy New Week. Glad to be here. I am Olumide Shukoya.
Okay. Now, let's hit it. Beautiful. Now, for those that are wondering, we're looking at Nigeria's public debt. Climbing to 152 trillion, that by June. Nigeria to the public debt stock has reached 152.4 trillion as of June 30th, 2025. According to new data released by the Debt Management Office, DMO, the figure marks a 3.01 trillion increase from 149.39 trillion recorded at the end of March 2025, translating to a 2.01% rise in just 3 months. In dollar terms, the nation's debt profile expanded from $97.24 billion to $99.66 billion, indicating a 2.49% increase. The steady rise reflects ongoing fiscal pressures and limited revenue growth amid broader economic challenges. Analysts note that the surge highlights the government's deepening reliance on both domestic and external borrowing to cover fiscal shortfalls. Despite ongoing efforts to implement revenue reforms and liberalize the foreign exchange market, the pace of debt accumulation signals persistent structural imbalance in Nigeria's public finance and underlines the need for stronger fiscal discipline. Gentlemen, this is where we find ourselves. This is where
we've always found.
Is it always? Okay. Now let's look at what we've done in the last 2025. We've had borrowings that from the budget we had a 13 point something
trillion
deficit. If we translate that to dollars, that's about 8 point something billion to fund the budget. Now, if we calculate all what we've borrowed so far, should we go by that route? Okay, good, it shouldn't be more than 8 point something billion. Or should we just say, okay, good, we've gone more than 8 point something billion. So, hey, what exactly? 8.72 to be precise, billion. If we had to say, okay, this is what the budget needed to complete, apart from what we're generating. But now let's look at it. How much have we taken so far in 2025? We've taken 750 million from World Bank. That's in September. We took 500 from African Development Bank, African Import and Export Bank, that's in October. Then there is an approval for 2.34 billion. That's this month.
The one President Tinubu.
This month.
Yes.
Now, there is also a 500 million that was in March from World Bank. There's 1.8 billion That was in April from World Bank. That was a 747 million. That was for the coastal road. That came from the Deutsche Bank, the Zenith Bank, First Abu Dhabi Bank. There was also 750 million for the digital infrastructure. That came from the World Bank. There was a 238 million from Japan to shore up national grid.
What about rail service?
There was a 300 from World Bank internally displaced. That is questionable. There was a 1 billion for agriculture from Afrexim Bank. There was a 500 million Souq loan. Now, if we combine all this together, we are almost hitting above the 8.72. Now, also remember that sometime in between June, July, August, the National Assembly approved a framework for 21 billion. Now let's bring this life on this table. Have we overshot the budget deficit for this year? Because that is when it becomes very unhealthy.
It's quite interesting. Priye always defends borrowing. I mean, apart from Priye, they tell us that borrowing is for funding infrastructure and development, used for building roads, ports, power plants, rail assets. We're also taught that it bridges a fiscal gap where, it covers deficit when revenue falls short of expenditure. It stimulates growth. If it invested well, it will create jobs, it will do this, it will do that, and all that. But let's look at it. Look at what you have talked about. It weakens, first of all, it weakens the currency. Because when we continue to borrow more, it strains the currency. It's a whole lot. Debt service burden. Because every year we are servicing debt. We're servicing debt. And if it gets to a point that we don't even have, or we have little to even spend on projects, what's next year budget going to be like if we are running at this?
Borrowing dependent. Which
means maybe 70 to 80% of all projects will be used, debt will be, I mean, the figures are just alarming. It's alarming. I don't know how we're going to get to where we are. I don't know how we're going to get to 2026, whether we're going to borrow more money. And I've always preached about this. If we cannot provide for certain things, let's put a halt on it instead of going to borrow and say, okay, let's do this. Because at the end of the day, the coastal highway, there's so much brouhaha on it as to how many square kilometer was spent. That's there. The rail service, we were still talking about this rail service, which they've also complained that there's no maintenance and all that. There are so many things. The Souq, where is it going to? And what is even worrisome is a lot of people are asking, what are these monies being used for? We are not really seeing the impact. We are seeing some, but we're not really seeing all the impact. It's supposed to create jobs. Has it created jobs? How many jobs has been created? We're still looking at Ajaokuta, reviving Ajaokuta. And I was saying, if before we even go and borrow any other money, let's find out what happened to all the money that was pumped into that. NNPC is also there. There's a whole lot of things. And, we jokingly say that every Nigerian is owing 200,000 naira. It's just alarming. Let me just stop there.
Okay, Priye. Have we overshot the budget deficit? When we translate that to dollars, have we overshot borrowing the budget deficit?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to start making comments or make those kind of calculations if we have overshot our budget deficit, if we have not overshot our budget deficit. I think in answering that question, I better say, in the previous government, they were servicing their debt with 90% or more of revenue that we generate in this country. And in the current administration, we are servicing our budget with like 60% or 50% of revenue generation.
Which means we are doing better.
It's not bad, and it's not good. It's not the El Dorado you and I want where we want our country to be. But there's been a significant progress in that sense, in the sense that as it is at the moment, we are generating more money domestically.
Then why are we borrowing more?
We're equally getting more money outside the the oil that we're all known for. We're getting non-oil. We're making more from non-oil products too. I know you want to ask the question again. Then why are we borrowing? Now, to what extent? Why is the government borrowing? Olumide specifically referenced some of the projects, some of the, he called it project, but I will call it capital projects, for which they were borrowed from. And I have a few of them outlined here, and how much was borrowed to actually prosecute this project. Because this when we say these are capital projects, they have the wherewithal and the capacity to give birth or to spur business, to spur development, to spur and attract, investment. Because if we make our country and our location a destination and a hub for investment, then we are making progress not only in the direct or indirect way we provide jobs, but we are also making our climate attractive for businesses to come, through which we are equally getting tax to fund as part of the sources of revenue to fund some of the project and to equally pay back some of the loans that we are borrowing. So, Chooks, I know you are itching to stop me from talking, but just wait a moment. Let me itemize some of the capital projects that we borrowed from. We borrowed for the Kano-Kaduna Rail Expansion Project. We borrowed about $254.8 million from the China Exim Bank. 2025? Yes, I think it's in 2025. Okay. And if we move on, that project, it was released by on the 8th of January 2025.
How far with the project?
Okay, fine. I didn't get down the breakdown of how far the project has gone. But if you know that if it was borrowed from January 8, 2025, you know that to an extent the project would have commenced, would have started. Did you see or did you confirm that the project... The Lekki, these are huge, gargantuan projects that, that you and I can see. Now, even if you and I don't have access to seeing the physical structure and how far the government has prosecuted that project, we all know that these are big things for us to see, and it cannot be hidden. And if the monies were misplaced, everybody would know, and they would drag the government out. Now, to our next, the Lekki Deep Sea Port Corridor Evacuation Access Road, we also borrowed from China Exim Bank, and the loan was approved in 2025. And it was to finance the support access and evacuation corridors from the Lekki Deep Sea Port, Petroleum Refinery, and other distance. So what do we have? We have $652 million that was borrowed. For where? For the Lekki Deep Sea Port. Okay. I think we have the $652 million. Then from the African Development Bank. Hold on. Where is the road? Where is the road? Where's what? The Lekki Deep Sea Port you just talked about. Deep Sea Port. Yes. The Lekki Deep Sea Port. Yes, where's the road? Where's the road? Yes. No, please don't ask questions sarcastically. No, you because I am talking Deep Sea Port for evacuation and access road. Yes. So that's the next question I'm asking. When was the project kicked off for the Lekki Deep Sea Port? Are you expecting the government to finish the project in 3 weeks or in a month? When was the loan taken? Particular one. It was taken in 2025. It was taken in May 6, 2025. Yes, okay. May 6, 2025. Let's assume that's about 6 months. Do you expect the government? Yes? Yes, we do expect. No. Yes, we do expect. No. Hold on. Project execution is from a month upwards. A month, 3 months. 6 months, you give report. A year. As it commenced. Hold on. As it commenced. The money has been taken, right? As it commenced. The question I will now ask again is, there is a coastal road that cuts across Lekki, that crosses that Lekki Deep Sea Port. Are they not conflicting? If this particular coastal road is also going to serve that particular facility, why take this one? That is one road. Is that the only road in that corridor? It is not the only road in that corridor. Why do you want the government to limit itself to just focus on one capital project when it has the wherewithal to focus on multiple roads in the same corridor that could facilitate multiple economic commercial activities? Where is the road going to go? Let's get very critical right now. Where is the road going to go? Do you have like a plan of that particular project, or do you know
physical planning of that particular project, if you know the topography of that area, you know the fight it took for the coastal road itself to cross where it is, down to where it's going to. If you are now telling us that there is another road, there's another extension coming from that same facility out, where is it going to go?
Chooks, I don't think you're asking the right question.
Let him.
I'm not asking the right question.
No, I don't think you're asking the right question.
Go ahead.
We also have the World Bank Group, the multiple IDA, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, that provided loans to Nigeria for what we used in during the COVID period from 2020
We're talking about 2025.
Wait, we are talking about loans that the government had collected.
No, 2025.
We're talking about loans that the government had collected and what they were used for.
We are being specific now.
Okay.
2025.
You mentioned subsidy or COVID.
No, I mentioned COVID.
COVID, okay.
Yes, I mentioned COVID.
COVID era was Buhari.
The African Development Bank and other multilaterals. Because when you said we borrowed, no, just a moment. When you say this administration borrowed money, and you were talking about all the how our loan or how our borrowings and our debt as a country had become so bloated, are you completely calculating and extracting the current administration borrowed, or you make calculations because you make calculations covering both the former administration and in this administration?
We have a budget of
you're not helping me out. You are making your own contribution to the program.
We have a budget of 54.99 trillion, right? Revenue generation was supposed to be 41.91 trillion. The deficit is 13.08 trillion. If we convert to dollars, that's supposed to be 8.72 billion. Now we're looking at, okay, what have we borrowed?
Your calculations are so wrong.
Hold on.
Your calculations are wrong.
Okay, what is 13.08?
If you say
hold on. What is 13.08 trillion?
No, I think we should not be.
Are we going back to mathematics class?
No, that's a sarcastic. That's not ask mocking questions.
So listen to me.
Let's have questions. Let's have a conversation.
Listen.
You cannot say 54 trillion. You cannot say the government, the revenue to be generated run into 41 trillion naira. Do you think the government has 41 trillion naira in its hands? And you are making that kind of calculation. 41 trillion naira plus this. It's a wrong calculation.
It's not.
Go ahead and make your point.
Just listen.
Make your point.
Good. There is a budget. On the budget, we have a specific number. The budget is 54.99 trillion. Yes, no. I'm asking you. Now you're not talking. On that same budget, it is estimated that the revenue generation is going to cater for 41.91 trillion.
The revenue that will be generated. Yes. It's a forecast. You are assuming the government had already generated that revenue. That's a wrong calculation.
Now you are having an issue. I just asked you.
I am not having an issue.
This is what was put there. We are expected to generate this.
Yes.
It's not as if the money is there. Now we are going to have a deficit of this 13.08 trillion. All I did was convert 13.08 trillion to dollars. Simple math. So it gave us 8.72 billion. Just conversion of the deficit to dollars. Are we on the same page now?
No, we are not.
Okay, good.
We are not on the same page.
On that particular thing, I'm not asking us. If this is what we say is our deficit, should we borrow more than this? Simple question, not more than that. Now, let's now go back to what we've talked about on this table for a very long time. We've been told time and over again that our oil revenue has increased.
Non-oil.
Non-oil revenue, no. Drilling has increased.
Yes.
Non-oil has increased.
Yes.
Custom has increased. Now we're asking ourselves, good, if that means give and take, if you tell me this is what it is, that means we are meeting our revenue generation on the budget. If we are not meeting, then tell us.
Very wrong calculation. You've been talking for long.
When you say wrong, right,
you've been talking for all the time, for a long time. I think your calculations are wrong. First of all, wait, just a moment. You made your calculation that if 13 trillion naira is going to serve as the budget deficit, as it was stated in the 2025 budget, you've made a calculation and a conversion to dollars, and it's about 8 trillion naira. And you're asking $8 billion, and that you're asking if the government can borrow more than that. If there is a necessity, the government can borrow more than that.
We are not saying
if there's a necessity, it can borrow more than that. The thing is, the government is not borrowing
on ground.
The government is not borrowing to eat it. The government is borrowing to channel these loans to capital projects that are going to aid business, economy, and development in the country. So don't ask sarcastic questions and what is this simple math. I think that's
Monday,
wrong.
which happens to be only prayer.
I think it's so wrong. We are all making your contribution here. It is very, very wrong and misplaced priority to say you are the government spokesman. If the government does something, no, it is wrong, and I think it should stop doing that. It's wrong, and you should stop doing that. I revealed that some data here, and those data are backed up by the Central Bank of Nigeria. They are backed up by the Souq bond, by the Islamic Bank of Nigeria. They are also backed up by the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And this is a bulletin that has been that is in the possession of the Debt Management Office.
Can you tell us what the revenue has been in the last month?
It is very, very wrong and sarcastic to say.
Can you tell us what the revenue